Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. Some UFC reaction. I'm going to be completely honest. I saw only about three and a half fights tonight. UFC 298. I'll give you my thoughts. First of all, as you should know, new champion. God, I have a hard time pronouncing these names, and I hate saying people's names wrong. Tuvara from Spain. First, I believe the first champion in the UFC of any weight class from Spain. I think they said he was the fifth overall fighter from Spain. 27 years old. Seemed to have a young lady in his life, a young bride of sorts. Seemed like all the ladies in his life were wearing black tonight. I'm an in and out UFC fan. I really peaked in my UFC fanhood around 2004 to 2008, 2009. I phased out when they were really pushing Brock Lesnar. I don't like Brock Lesnar. He's a steroid user, amongst other things, as we know. So, I've been getting back into it. I got the UFC app for the last couple of years. I go to the movie theaters for these pay-per-views. Volkanovski, if I'm saying his name correct, I've seen his last 4 or 5 fights. I saw that epic fight where he almost won the title in the weight class above him. Unfortunately, I saw the fight where he didn't even have a training camp. He lost that rematch. That was unfortunate. And here he is, having lost 2 of his last 3 fights, comes into this one. And, I'm telling you, I was excited. I hear we come from the land down under. Slowly thunder, bit to thunder. I'm all excited. He's the fucking men at work singing that song. I'm all jacked up, hoping he's going to beat this young punk into oblivion. And unfortunately, not the case. Volkanovski had a great first round. I thought I would give him the 10-9. Volkanovski. Some people thought the challenger won the first round, but then boom, shaboom, shaba, 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 gets the knockout. I don't think this loss, I think it's more like the challenger won. I don't think it's that Volkanovski did anything wrong. He got caught. And it's unfortunate when you see these legends lose. They come down to earth a little bit. And you don't want to see these guys, like Tito Ortiz, I think, lost 8 of his last 9 UFC fights. Wow, my memory's kicking in today, folks. And we saw guys like Chuck Liddell lost several of his last UFC fights. And sometimes these guys end up in some of the other MMA groups, that are a little more forgiving when it comes to one-loss records. And, but it's kind of a demotion, to be honest with you, for these UFC guys that are the top of the charts. And then they go down and they, whether it's Bellator or some other group they fight in, it does feel like a demotion. Sometimes they even get more money from these other groups, okay? But the point of the matter is this. I'd hate to see Volkanovski go that route. Also, I'd hate for him to stick around and get knocked out, a bunch more times. So, and I think one of the commentators, it might have been Jumpin' Joe Rogan, made a nice comment. Hey, look, he's been knocked out in his last 2 fights. His last fight wasn't even that long ago. I want to say it was late in the summer, maybe August, September, late summer, early fall. In Florida, it's so hard to say. I'm still in Austin, Texas, by the way, and I'll give you the wrap-up of that in a minute. But I don't know. I hate to see Volkanovski go out like this. I'm sure he's going to want to fight again. He's already talking about a rematch. Whatever the fuck, the new champion called out Conor McGregor. Really? Is this 2019? Isn't that passé? From my knowledge, McGregor still owes a fight to that other UFC coach. We haven't seen that fight yet. And Dana, if he is a man of integrity, supposedly going to hold Conor to that fight with the other coach guy, whose name, sorry, I can't remember, okay? So the point of the matter is this. Oh, yes, I want to fight Conor McGregor. Okay, so do I, all right? So whatever the fuck. Now, the other fights that I did see, the semi-main event, the semi-final, if you would. God, I'm sorry with these goddamn names. Paulo Costa. I think I might have that one right. Paulo Costa. Sorry. The Australian guy, awesome guy. What the fuck? It's just late. I'm sorry. Kennington, what the fuck's his name? It's in the tip of my fucking ass, but I can't remember it. But you know who I'm talking about. The former champ, the Australian dude. Really a great fight. I thought it was an awesome fight. I mean, they said instant classic. I don't think the guy that lost, Paulo, I don't think he damaged himself in that loss. I would say he won the first round just by damage alone. I mean, it looked like he had 3 really awesome head kicks. And yes, maybe the Australian fellow dominated beyond that, but not even dominated. Just like maybe he had the edge, but those leg kicks and the fact that he almost won at the end of the first round, and it was a Saved by the Bell, Zach Slater moment, or whatever the fuck, Kelly Kapowski. I mean, to me, you win the first round. If you have 3 head kicks and the third and final head kick almost ends the fight, but the time ran out, how do you judge these goddamn fights? One way that I liked, if I were a judge, which I'm not, I would say, who was closer to victory in this round? Now, some rounds, neither guy is anywhere close to victory. And then you could kind of default back to like the punch count or the effectiveness or the, whatever the fuck, cage control. But I think in most rounds, I always think who was closer to winning the fight in this particular round. And you have to go with Paulo in the first round. And then the second 2, I don't think either of the second 2 rounds you could argue for either guy, really. And I think the Australian had the higher ranking. I think as a default, judges naturally kind of go to the guy who has the higher ranking or is the former champion in this case. Holy cunt. Sorry. So, any fucking way, I kind of give it up. I say it was a great fight. I'd say that, are they going to... First of all, the Australian gentleman, sorry, I'm blanking on his name right now. He's not going to want a rematch, okay? Because obviously he got his bell rung a few times by this Paulo fellow. And there's no motivation for him to fight him. He escaped. It's kind of like for you boxing fans out there. Do you remember when Lennox Lewis, and yes, I did contribute to Lennox Lewis, the untold Lennox Lewis story, available on Amazon Prime. I'm listed as a contributing copywriter for that one. Dr. Dre reading many of my words. But Lennox Lewis escaped from, I believe it was Merciless Ray Lewis. Was it? Not Ray Lewis, the football player. Merciless Ray Mercer. Madison Square Garden, 10-round fight. Neither guy was a champion. Mercer, in my opinion, won that fight. I believe Lennox Lewis lost that fight. And some people say, that was Lennox Lewis's toughest fight. Yeah, because he fucking lost, okay? I'll be the first to admit it. But, they fucking gave it to Lennox because he was the good-looking British guy, and they wanted to get him in there with Holyfield and all those guys. So the point is, there's some politics in this, folks. I mean, if going deeper down the rabbit hole, do you remember when Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins had this whole summer thing where they were going to fight, I think in July, and they both had tune-up fights, I think in May, whatever year this was, maybe 2003, 2004. And Bernard clearly won his tune-up fight, but Oscar clearly lost his tune-up fight to some German guy on the same card, okay? And they gave the decision, a majority decision, I believe, to De La Hoya, because the show must go on, folks. We got to get to Bernard and fucking Oscar, so we're not going to let this German guy throw a fucking monkey wrench into that. Or whatever the fucking German word is for monkey. Monkey wrench. Is that how German people say monkey? Monkey. Okay. So, going back to this, Henry Cejudo, who I do like him, and here's the thing with these UFC folks. You watch this shit long enough, there's a certain pattern. Some guy is dominant, he goes undefeated or close to it, he wins a title, he has a bunch of title defenses, and lo and behold, he's the greatest fighter of all time. or at least the greatest whatever the fuck weight of all time. The greatest middleweight, the greatest lightweight, the greatest heavyweight. All these assholes are the greatest until they lose and some other asshole becomes the greatest. So with that being said, Henry Cejudo, once again, one of the greatest, apparently. They're all the fucking greatest. But he goes in there and he's fighting this fellow, and it's clear that he's got his fucking arm fucked up, and the other guy is kind of mocking him, which I thought was a little disregardful, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. But credit, tip of the old hat, the knit hat, to Henry, did not quit. I mean, it was clear that he might have had a broken forearm or some shit, some bone is projecting. Look at my huge arms, by the way, okay? Look at these goddamn things. Look at that. It's a man's arm. So anyway, Henry fights the good fight, but loses. And there you have it. So then you had the fight that I kind of caught a partial of, and that's an interesting thing. I mean, do I want to share with you the trials and tribulations of my night? I guess I will. Look, folks, I had some other obligations tonight. They had this awards ceremony. I'm still in Austin, Texas, Austin Revolution Film Festival, yet I still wanted to go see the goddamn UFC fights. They had the fucking jury decisions and all the awards things tonight at this film festival, and of course I go to that. You know what I mean? And so, because I'm waiting for my name to be called, and it never was. So then I'm all, I'm not pissed. I'm not disappointed. I just don't have anything to talk about because I'm not a goddamn award winner this time, although I have 81 other awards in film and television you should know about. So I'm sitting there, and I still want to go see this fucking UFC thing. This theater I've never been to, as previously discussed. It's very difficult to drive in Austin, Texas. I'm a nervous wreck driving in this town. I like the town. I like the people, but I've been told it's overpopulated now, and the infrastructure of Austin can't handle all this popularity. So I wait for this awards ceremony to be over. I get on my, no one's talking to me. I'm not talking to anyone. I get on my fucking phone. I'm like, let me go see the goddamn fight that I wanted to see in the first place. It's past 9:20, and guess the fuck what? They're no longer selling the tickets on the fucking app to the fight. Now I'm screwed, okay? So I say, well, you know what? I've been paying a lot of money for this UFC stuff. I pay for the app. I pay for all these fights in the movie theater. I buy the occasional trinket. I've interviewed Randy Couture. I've paid my time. UFC owes me one tonight, okay? So I pull a little magic trick. I use my subscription plan to get myself a ticket to this Madden Web thing. I've been hearing all these horrible things about it. And I say, you know what? If the opportunity presents itself, I might just go into the other theater to see the fucking fight. Shh, don't tell. So I get to the goddamn theater, and I've never done this in the past. I've always been a good little boy and paid my $25, okay? So then I think Dana owes me one. So I get to the fucking theater. I'm trying to present my phone to whoever the fuck, and no one's around. I'm like, should I just walk the fuck in? But the young lady was getting herself a beverage at the machine, and then she zips me in. She checks my ID, and she tells me what theater to go see at Madam Web. Well, guess what? That's not where I'm headed, little girl. I'm walking down to each fucking auditorium and kind of hearing what's playing, because I've been to these movie theaters so often. I know when Nicole Kidman's in the theater. I know when all these things are happening, the previews, the don't talk promos, all that shit. And I'm just walking delicately from theater to theater, making sure that no one's spying on me like Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray in 1984. And I finally get to theater auditorium number 7, and I hear the familiar sounds of Joe Rogan and all these other people commentating on this UFC fight, and here I am, folks. And I had even picked out a seat for myself when I was trying to reserve my seat earlier, so I kind of knew where I wanted to sit, and I go in there, and I take my seat that I kind of picked out for myself. No one's in it, no one's near it. There was a pretty formidable crowd of gentlemen, all men in the theater, as far as I could tell, but I found myself a nice chair. I sit in it, making myself at home. And then I watched the Henry Cejudo, the conclusion of that. And then I say, you know what? I'm going to, look, I'm very much just middle class, salt of the earth. values, okay, middle class guy, doing the right thing, okay. I say, you know what? I've kind of fucked the theater in the ass a little bit tonight. I got a fucking Madam Web ticket. I'm in this UFC thing. I'm throwing off the infrastructure. I'm going to be like the Statue of Liberty and balance out the scales of justice. I'm going to do the right thing, Spike Lee, and buy some fucking overpriced food from this goddamn movie theater. So I go, I present myself. I ask the young Waitron person, woman, teenage kid, probably working on the weekends for some spending money for her cell phone bill or whatever the fuck. And I say, hey, how's the chicken wings here? And she says, oh, they're good. And then I say, oh, I meant chicken tenders. And she said, oh, yes, of course. So we're speaking the same incorrect verbiage, me and the kids of tomorrow. So I ordered the fuck, and she said, it's a platter. It's got fucking pretzel bites and fries and all this shit. And then I fucking said, well, fuck, I'm in. So I ordered this thing. And then she says, can I see your phone? Can I see your ticket? And I'm like, oh, I said, why? She said, well, we need to know what seat to bring it to. I'm like, oh, shit. And I said, I don't just pick it up here? And she says, no, we bring it out to you. Oh, my God. So now it's like I'm busted. I've fucked myself because I just wanted some chicken tenders to watch with this UFC fight. So I quickly so I give her the fucking phone. And then I'm like, okay, what do I do? Do I go into the theater, find the seat that I'm supposed to be at, put my fucking water cup down, put my hat down, put my receipt, leave a little, trail of tears, trail of crumbs like Hansel and Gretel at the fucking seat? Or what do I do? Because I want to watch the next fight, but then I'm kind of putting the math together. And before I left the counter, I said, what's that take, about 10 minutes? And she said, 10, 15. Like, she didn't even say between 10 and 15. She's just talking jive to me, talking teenager. Between 10, 15, LOL. She's talking in fucking SMS or whatever the fuck. So I'm like, all right, I guess I got to figure this one out. So I go, I get a little cup of water because I wanted free water. I get a little Dixie cup of water. I go into the theater. And I got a double feature going. And now I'm in the chair to watch this Madam Web movie that everyone's shitting a stick on. Everyone's saying how deplorable it is. It's the end of comic book movies. I'm watching this thing for 10, 15, and it wasn't that bad. And apparently what I caught was basically the catalyst moment, okay, Sid Field, where fucking Madam Web becomes Madam Web. She's in a car. It's sinking. There's webs. It's very exciting. Then she has all this deja vu shit going on. It's Dakota, whatever the fuck, Dakota Jordan, Dakota Johnson. I think she's attractive, okay? So 50 Shades of Madam Web, I'm sitting there thinking, this is not such a bad movie, at least this 10-minute selection of it. So then I'm thinking, should I just stay in here and watch this fucking movie that I'm supposed to be seeing? So eventually, it was about 10, not 10, 15, but 10. Another Waitron comes in. Now I had recognized this young lady because she was also serving the people in the fucking UFC tournament fight room. So I'm in my goddamn chair. She brings me this fucking platter. It's got the fucking pretzel rolls, which are weird, the fries, which are semi-cold. The chicken tenders, however, were very hot and apparently fresh. And all these dipping sauces, there was a ketchup of some kind, a ranch of some kind. And I'm just eating the goddamn thing. And I'm thinking, well, I really want to watch these fights. I'll see Dakota Fanning eventually. So, or whatever the fuck her name is, Dakota Johnson and Lindsay Lohan or whoever the fuck, Sydney Sweeney, all these goddamn actresses. So I eat my food promptly, very quickly, and then I go back to the UFC theater. Nobody gives a fuck. Let's just be honest. Nobody gives half a shit's ass fuck about what I'm doing. Everyone's paying attention to the fights. I get in there and I'm watching the fights, and that's how I watch the rest of the evening. So I had a good time, folks, and I was so enjoying my fucking auditorium hopping that I even heard, as I was going back to Auditorium 7, I heard Auditorium 8 had a movie that was just starting. You know what I mean? I'm like, fuck, should I go see a fresh movie? So that's how I'm living, folks. I'm just taking the balls in the hand and shooting in my own court, okay? I'm not restricted by the rules of your fucking weird society. I'm not restricted by anything.